Let's talk about the part of being a landlord that nobody enjoys: evictions. Nobody gets into real estate hoping to remove a tenant, but if you own a rental property long enough, that day may come. And here's the hard truth: how you handle it matters enormously. Do it right, you protect your property and your income. Do it wrong, even with good intentions, you can face lawsuits, fines, and months of lost rent. Hi, I'm Eddie Grant, here with M Property Group, your local property management team in the greater Philadelphia area. And today, I'll be walking you through the eviction process step by step so you know exactly what to expect. The first question is, when can you actually evict someone in Pennsylvania? You need a legal reason. You can't just decide that you want them out. The most common reason by far is non-payment of rent. The tenant didn't pay and they're behind. Second would be lease violations. Things like unauthorized pets, unauthorized occupants, property damage, or repeated noise complaints. Third, the lease simply ended and the tenant won't leave. That's called a holdover tenant. And fourth, certain illegal activity on the property like drug-related offenses, which has its own faster track. One thing to understand up front: Pennsylvania does not let you evict someone for no reason in the middle of a fixed lease. You generally have to wait until the term ends, unless they've broken the agreement. Okay, you've got a legal reason. The eviction doesn't start in court. It starts with a written notice. In Pennsylvania, it's called a notice to quit. The amount of time you have to give a tenant depends on the situation. If it's for non-payment of rent, that's 10 days notice. If it's for a lease violation or ending a tenancy and they've lived there for a year or less, that's only 15 days. On the contrary, if they've lived there for a year or more, that's 30 days. Now here's something a lot of landlords miss. Your written lease can actually change those notice periods or even waive them entirely. So before you do anything, read your own lease. They may have a different set of rules, and those will take priority. Let's say the notice passes and the tenant still hasn't paid or moved out. Now you go to court. In Pennsylvania, you file a landlord-tenant complaint with your local magistrate or landlord/tenant court. This is the first day you're legally allowed to file, the day after your notice period begins, not before. Once you file, the court schedules a hearing. That usually happens within the first 7 to 15 days. At the hearing, both sides show up. You present your case, the lease, the payment records, the notice, your proof of service, and the tenant gets to present theirs. Again, this is where good documentation wins or loses the case. Bring everything: the signed lease, a ledger of missed payments, copies of the notice, and your photos proving you served it correctly. If the judge rules in your favor, you get a judgment for possession. That's the court formally saying the property is yours to reclaim. So you won the hearing. Are you done? Not quite. This is where patience really matters. After the judgment, the tenant has a window to either leave voluntarily or file an appeal. If they don't leave, you go back and request what's called an order of possession, and then a writ of possession. Once the writ is served, the tenant typically has at least 11 days to move out. And if they still won't go, only then does law enforcement step in. A sheriff or a constable carries out the physical removal. Which brings me to the rule you cannot break. At no point in the entire process are you allowed to remove your tenant yourself. We've been harping on this across this series. There is no changing the locks, no shutting off the heat, water, or electricity, no hauling their stuff out to the curb. Again, that is called a self-help eviction, and in Pennsylvania, it is illegal. And one more note, for non-payment cases, a tenant can actually stop the eviction even late in the stages by paying everything they owe. So don't be surprised if that happens. The best eviction is the one you never have to file. And most of them are preventable with good screening and consistent management. And that's exactly what we do at M Property Group. We screen tenants thoroughly, enforce the lease terms, and collect rent on your behalf. So late payments and legal headaches don't land on your desk. If you'd rather avoid the whole process, reach out to us at mpropertygroup.com in the link in our description. Step 4, get your order and writ of possession and let the sheriff handle the removal. Thanks for watching. If you're interested in M Property Group services, check out our link in our description, and we'll see you in the next one.